would imagine, aren't too happy about all this. Griff Jenkins joins us now live from Washington, D.C. with how they plan to retaliate. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. It was a celebration at the White House following the passage of the historic tax legislation, and for good reason. It's bold and it hasn't been done in a long time.
Hasn't been done in 34 years, but actually really hasn't been done because we broke every record. It's the largest, I always say the most massive, but it's the largest tax cut in the history of our country and reform.
Republicans praise what this means for the average taxpayer and businesses in terms of the lower taxes and higher wages, but the bill failed to attract a single Democrat who uniformly painted this as corporate welfare and tax cuts for the rich, some responding by invoking that poor fellow from Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, Tiny Tim.
What we're doing here today is basically saying, wealthy Americans, big fat Christmas present for you. Tiny Tim, we're taking your crutch away from you.
And like Tiny Tim, Simon and his family now find their future in danger because of the greed of those with power, the cruelty that is in the heart of the tax scam.
And the party could be over this morning as Republicans rush against the deadline to fund the government passed Friday as Democrats, led by Minority Leader Pelosi, are urging members to vote against the continuing resolution that will be offered today by the House to fund the government until January 19th. The prospect, guys, of sending government workers home for Christmas without paychecks is a daunting one, but Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says he's confident that will not happen.
I think it's highly unlikely that there's a government shutdown. I think that the right thing to do is let's get a short-term funding and we'll deal with these issues in January.
So, Heather, here's where we stand. The House meets at 8 a.m. and some of the major components of this continuing resolution include children's health, the FISA, foreign surveillance reauthorization, and a disaster relief, $81 billion of disaster relief that's going to be separated into a different bill. So, a lot of work to do before anybody goes home for Christmas.
Yeah, I've got a suggestion. They should start working at 4 a.m. like us instead of 8 a.m. There's an idea.
I like it.
All right, thank you very much, Griff. See you later. Well, less than 24 hours after Congress passed the sweeping tax reform, some good news. Americans already feeling the trickle-down effects. Some major companies handing out bonuses and announcing some investments. Dana Lasch telling Hannity that it proves Democrats were wrong.
By the way, Chuck Schumer was attacking AT&T, claiming in video that AT&T was going to use this to enrich themselves. And what does AT&T do? They announced that they're investing in their employees and their community, as is Boeing and other companies, because this is how economics work. This is how math works. They're on the wrong side of the history on this.
Well, hundreds of thousands of AT&T and Comcast employees will get $1,000 bonuses. And Fifth Third Bank is handing out bonuses to nearly 14,000 workers and boosting minimum wage to $15 an hour. Wells Fargo also hiking those pay rates starting next March. And Boeing will invest $300 million in facilities and employee training and education. So hopefully that's just the beginning. Well, the American people are confused about what they're actually getting in the new tax package and the money that's going to go back into their wallet. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan says that you can blame the Democrats for that and their all-out assault on the tax reform package.
When people are bombarded with that kind of rhetoric, no wonder they're a little confused. When they're bombarded from the rhetoric from the left and from a lot of people in the media that this is going to hurt them, this is going to raise their taxes, it's going to do all their things, people are going to be confused. You know, this was the kind of debate I'm told they had in '86 when Reagan passed his tax reform, and the polling before they passed it, only 18% of Americans at the time thought they were going to get a tax cut. So this is the kind of hyperbolic rhetoric you have when we're doing monumental reform, which lets people keep more of their own hard-earned dollars, which gets our businesses in sync with the rest of the world so we're not punishing them and losing jobs. The left hates this. They're not for it.
That's true. You hear completely different stories. Well, President Trump now has to craft a deal to keep the government running. Griff was talking about that. But the White House says that it is confident that it will get a continuing resolution to keep the government funded through January 19th.